says we're not live.
Boom! We're
Welcome
back.
to Feedback Sunday.
Feedback Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit unusual here. Yes, it's Super Bowl Sunday. It's kind of an experiment. Well, we have a ton of submissions that we want to get through, and for those who are not here right now, we will send you the video of your feedback, so you won't miss it, and you can use that to work on your music or whatever you use it for. And we also are just doing an experiment to see what streaming on a Sunday is like, and also how much of an overlap or lack thereof there is between the music makers and the football lovers, if any. There could be a correlation, maybe there's not, but we will see. So
yeah, as you can see for us, I don't know. I'm not really particularly interested in the Super Bowl. I
yeah,
used to be, but
I'm recording it mostly for the commercials to kind of half watch later. But I'm not as much into the game or the teams that are in it, so it's like I don't care if I find out who won, but the commercials are fun.
I love the sports memes actually. Like I
Mhm.
can't wait. Like
Yeah,
what's it? Joe Burrow memes and the
right.
Cincinnati Bengals. But yeah, we'll see. And also I wanted to mention that we hear your feedback on our feedback. Namely, like we have a backup queue, and we're too slow to to get rid of it all for the people that actually watch us in real time and try to submit. So we have incorporated a couple changes that we'll try to do and still this stream. But our differentiator is more in depth, and typically that comes with more time given to each feedback. So give us some what is it? Not credit. You can give us credit, but there's going to be growing pains with this. So we're going to be trying some new stuff. We'll see if it works, but we continue to appreciate your feedback on our feedback. So yeah.
Mhm.
Without further ado, we can go in and just talk about the queue real quick. We have, I think, 8 people. So XOXA is the first one, followed by Arinity, IDS Shire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Yordnads, a friend of the stream, Group 935. Toad Milk, I believe he was one of the people that gave us feedback actually last time. So welcome. Blastique, Mr. McChiquino, and then Rix's, who's actually submitting a song that we've reviewed already, and looks like they've made changes based on our feedback. So
She's awesome. Yeah, can't wait to
pretty
hear that.
interested, yeah, to see that. But,
Hey, it looks like we've got a viewer here.
what?
Hello,
Hey,
who is Golden? Who is GLDN? Hope it's one of those. Yeah. So we've got a form there. That should be the link. If you just click on that, you can follow that. And like we said, we've got a bit of a queue of artists. It's I guess a lot of people want feedback on their music, so we're doing our best to try to deliver quality feedback and not just say like next. So yeah, we're going through them. Today is an opportunity. Yeah, Golden. Okay, cool. Today's an opportunity for us to get through more of those and keep it rolling, keep getting to more people's music. So
yeah, just wanted to say, if you fill it out, we will definitely get to it. So,
yes.
looking at the queue now, it might not be this week, but we'll send you the video of you getting reviewed next week, or at least a timestamp. So, yeah, we're excited to hear your music, man. Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
If you have
Cool.
feedback to give, like, we appreciate that too. So yeah, let's not get behind anymore. Let's get into the music.
Let's do it. All
All
right.
right, so we got Zoxa here to finish released. It's called Real Fire. I don't see any product description, but I do believe it's a music video, so I'm excited.
Dope.
Cool.
All right.
You have
It's on YouTube
anything?
here. Yeah.
Anything else?
Whoa. Autoplay. Nope. Nothing else. Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Zoxa, Real Fire. 3, 2, 1.
3,000 views.
Yeah.
But I know they won't last, so I focus on the bag. So my money is on track.
Nice.
Money for that's so fast. Charlie, you're mine, and there's nothing they can do about it. Charlie, you're mine. Yeah, I don't doubt it. Do it, it's me.
Wow, what? Spanish?
Yeah.
Me, yeah, it's hard to lie.
Nice lyric video.
just tryna know your desires.
Is that
I'm
Bieber?
just tryna take you higher.
I can hear that. Yeah.
I'm just tryna take you higher. Shawty, you real fire. I'm just tryna know your desires. I'm just tryna take you higher. I'm just tryna take you higher. I got a chain, now we flying out of Cabo. She ain't fuck with me there, but now she tryna follow. Her best friend hit me up with a photo. With a tag, ask me when I'm tryna fuck next. I saw she next to me, so
Yeah, she
why
forward.
fuck her less? 2 a.m., I ain't got time to rest. I ain't got time to rest. All this money, man, I feel like I'm blessed. Shawty, what you doing? Whoa, hop out to the party and you know it's on go. I just wanna know, is you gon' hold me down when I'm feeling low? Listen closely, I know you want me, but don't worry, cause I need you for me. But shawty, let's go, I need you around me for sure, yeah. Shawty, you're real fire. I'm just tryna know your desires. I'm just tryna take you higher. I'm just tryna take you higher. Shawty, you're real fire. I'm just tryna know your desires. I'm just tryna take you higher.
Very Kid
I'm
Leroy
just
type
tryna
too.
take you higher. Es peligrosa. Es una diosa.
Spanish kinda crazy.
Yeah.
Si le gusta cuando yo la toco. Yeah.
That was solid as shit, man.
Yeah, shit.
That was really solid. That was sounding professional. That was Zoxa Real Fire featuring KVN. Shouts out.
2:45, yeah, 2:45, and not too long. I mean, I was sort of thinking like it does do the same thing, like, you know, chordally or whatever through the whole thing, but it's I don't know, seems fresh.
Golden loves it as well. Shouts
Yes.
out to Golden. That's crazy. So yeah, also part of our new policy, the 5-minute timer is on. It's a soft
Yes.
timer. You know, we won't just stop it, but we're trying to get through the songs that we can and give our feedback. So, um, yeah, I think my first impressions, and I'll kind of go to the vibes because that's what I do. But I heard Josh say Beaver, especially for that Cavian guy.
Yeah,
I could totally feel that, and that's a compliment, by the way. Bieber is like, you know, one
definitely.
of the biggest artists in the world, and he's a good
Mhm.
singer. So you're a good singer. Um, I said, you know, kind of Juice World this for the first guy, um, for the second guy too, and then Kid Leroy. They're all kind of the same pocket, I would say, especially with the same type of beats of hip hop with a acoustic guitar.
Mhm.
Um, all that being said, you know, it sounds very clean, sounds very professional. It doesn't really do anything for me to change like the music game, you know, or like lyrical content. It's all stuff I've kind of heard before. But you know, I could hear this being played in the club, and uh, I haven't heard any kind of Hispanic artist kind of do this style. So there's probably a new pocket for it. Um, but yeah, like that's just solid job. I think so. Vibes. I think it's pretty much green. Like this is good to go. This is good to ship to your fans, and they'll probably love it, and they'll probably make you new fans like Golden here. So yeah, what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say pretty much the same. It just sounds super solid overall. It's like a fun like pop song.
Mhm.
Could definitely hear this on like the radio or in a club or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I liked it. I would say pretty much the same stuff. Yeah, green light, golden, got it. Green light, good to go.
Hey,
On
good to go.
vibes. What about content?
Uh, so content, I mean, it's all stuff I've heard before. It's nothing too crazy. That being said, like, it's if you're trying to, you know, get into the rap game and kind of fit in, like, this is, yeah, you did a great job. Like, it doesn't, you know, stand out to me like, oh wow, this artist has got like something awesome to say or talk about. Like, it's all stuff I've heard before, and I mean, I've written songs that are similar lyrical content too, so, you know, like, everybody, I guess, needs a club banger, and this is a song that you could promote and get a lot of crossover fans, so, I'm not complaining about it. It's just, yeah, I think it's decent. There's nothing, no kind of bars that stick with me. There's no bars that are struggle bars, which is commendable as well. Like, you didn't say anything fucking stupid. Um, but yeah, that being said, like, the way that we rate it is like, is it good to go for like a radio release?
Yeah.
and I think it is. Maybe I could dock it a little bit of points just to say it's like, I wish it would be a little original. It would help fans like me that are kind of more of a hip hop head, be like, "Oh, this is a new cat that I like to follow," to
Mhm.
look into their music. So the Spanish did like was like, "Oh, that's something new. That's something different." So I would say all that being considered, it's like 90% between green and yellow. It's like really well done. Good job.
Yeah, and I mean, just on the point of, like, lyrical content and memorability, I would agree, like, I wouldn't necessarily say that right now there's a lot that's sort of super, like, earworm-ish or memorable. The melody is,
Yeah.
definitely. The
Yeah.
melody, like, the writing, I think the arrangement qualifies as content, like,
Yeah.
just the way everything's put together, it's that kind of beautiful simplicity, right? Like,
Mhm.
good design,
Mhm.
basically, where, you just have things in the right places, things don't step on each other, like, it's all put together very professionally and simply, and it's pleasing. So
Mhm.
I think overall it's like that part is really well done. I also don't I feel like some songs, you get more of the hookiness or the catchiness like after the second listen or like after more listens. So it's hard to say like not every song necessarily has to be the stickiest lyrics possible after one listen. Sometimes it's better if they're not like that because if they're too out there, then they'll catch your ear the first time, but then subsequent times it might be like get a little bit old, sort of, right?
Mhm.
Like if you hear a really funny joke, but then you hear it again and again, it's not as funny.
Mhm.
So sometimes like the subtlety can help a little bit with that because it gives you something to unpack on the subsequent listens and it makes you listen to it more.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I can't say if that's the case with this without having known it for longer than like 3 minutes.
Mhm. Mhm.
But overall, yeah, the length, it's 2:45. It's pretty short. I would say it's pretty good overall. So
Mhm.
content, I would give it a pretty much green, good to go.
Sweet. And then production. I just want to answer Flamsy real quick. Can you react to my song? Yes, of course we can. We have a form. If you do, let me type in the command exclamation point submit. It'll bring up our form and you could submit it. We do have a full queue and we're trying to get through it as fast as possible. So we can't guarantee that we'll get to you this week, but we can guarantee that if you submit, we will eventually listen to your music and give you a review. So have solace in that. We have a queue, and then we're gonna get through it. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, so that's production for me. I mean, Josh might have more to go off here, but I think vocals they sounded nice and clean, just enough effects. The auto tune sounded great with their vibratos. Um, the first person I heard about doing that, like in this style, especially was Kid Leroy, and that's why I just think it's very um, reminiscent of that, and I think you guys pulled it off really well. Beat, it sounds pretty solid as well. It feels like a Kid Leroy type beat. Mixing sounds pretty professional, pretty decent. I might have heard a little bit of distortion on the kicks in the beginning, but I think my ears got used to it, and there's no big glaring issues to me. So I think production, it's pretty much good to go. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I did hear a little bit of probably saturation on
Saturation.
the kick and the low end, which is fine. It does help to fill it out more, and from like a mastering perspective, it can help a little bit too.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the good news is that I don't really have much to say in the production department.
Sheesh.
It sounded really good. It's like every
Good
once in a
job.
while you get something where it's just immediately very, very clear that this is like professional work being done. There
Mhm.
and I often find that the biggest difference in quality, like even if you can't necessarily pinpoint exactly what it is usually in the production department.
Mhm.
It's just like I'm trying to think of a good example of like if a product is like packaged in like the cheapest possible packaging, like the product can be okay, but your impressions of it are not going to be quite as good. So
Yep.
even like if you go to a restaurant and the food is like slopped all over the plate, but it tastes good, right? Then I mean you still think of it as like a cheap restaurant or whatever, versus like something with a nice like plated meal. You're like, oh, this is so fancy, and like the food might not actually be that much different, but the
Mhm.
presentation sort of tying it all together matters a lot, and you guys are doing that really well here. So
Mhm.
the only like possible improvement I think would be maybe just being careful with the amount of saturation or distortion happening with that bass. It could be maybe cleaned up a little bit, or
Mhm.
give it a little bit of a rounder bottom with like a little bit more sub bass
Mm.
underneath that.
We love round bottoms here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you could have squeezed a
I
little
think
bit.
you could have squeezed that round bottom a little bit harder. Yeah, I think so.
No, I mean, I think
Oh,
you
okay.
could have squeezed a little bit more sub bass out of the mix,
Mhm.
because we've had stuff that, like, makes our headphones shake, and it's, like, it's a fine line to walk, but, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just, like, that could maybe even take it up a slight notch,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'd give it green good to go on production.
And for me, overall, that leads to pretty much this is green to go.
Yeah,
This
green good
is
to go.
this is great. Put it on the radio, promote it. You guys got 3K from January 27th. Looks like you guys are doing pretty good. So
Yeah.
glad we could be a part of it. And
Yeah, man. Keep
you,
going, dude. He's
yeah,
got 725 subscribers, but I think he can do more.
sheesh, for sure. Yeah, and golden. If you like it, man, support it. Support the
Nice.
music. Support the smaller artists. But yeah, thank you for submitting, Zaxa. We'll go to the next song. Oh, looks like I clicked on the link. It's not available. That was Arinity Reflections.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
So, Arinity, if you're there or if you see this later, just to let you know, the SoundCloud link you sent us doesn't work. So we're
Is
gonna go to the
broken.
next person,
Wah wah.
unfortunately. Um, which is a Spotify link. Let me just see real quick. It's called "Fix Me" by Idshire.
Interesting name.
Um, yeah, please let me know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Like you guys will see it on the screen. It's for an English speaker, it's challenging.
Mhm.
Um, the project description says there's a girl that I liked, but wasn't doing well, so
Oh.
kind of sort of ignored her a little. When I asked her out later, when she was doing better, she was seeing somebody else, so I wrote this song.
Oh.
Ooh,
That's sad.
damn, man.
Damn.
Fix Me. That sounds like
Tough.
a sad song. Yeah. So
Reflective here.
yeah, look at this like uh album art too. Very lonely. Uh
Interesting. Is that a camera?
yeah, like an old timey camera. It looks like it's unplugged as well. Or maybe that's the switch, but all right.
Interesting. Cool.
That's Fix Me by Ichire. Looks like it's part of a nice little project here. So
Mhm.
you ready to listen?
Let's do it.
All right. This is it. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Nice guitar tone. Nice big reverb, low end,
Love the low ones here.
stereo, double tracked.
When you don't feel at your best, your soul, your heart need a rest. You don't want to see anyone, although someone seems like fun. You show up if you're asked, and still have a blast. But you don't initiate, no hangouts, no dates. It doesn't mean I don't like you, just first gotta make it through.
So he like rejected her
Fix
first,
myself
right,
so
right.
you don't have
but he
to.
wasn't at a good place. Okay. It's admirable.
When you start feeling better,
It's a ballad.
you
Yep.
wish you could write them a letter
Reminds me of a few Green Day
to
songs.
explain why it seems like you didn't care and wish they knew.
I like a little more oomph from the
Didn't
drums.
just forget
Yeah.
and wish you could have met
And perhaps a little more reverb on the
at
vocals
home or in the park,
to match that guitar.
Yeah.
but not leave them in the dark. It doesn't mean I didn't like you, just first had to make it through. Fix myself so you didn't have to.
Singer's decent.
Solo. Let's go.
Take it away.
Nice.
and I made it through. I fixed myself so you didn't have to.
Kind of a catchy like lyric. Oh, another solo. Here we go.
Ending too abruptly.
I think it might just be like the ride cymbal. Short decay.
Shred it on the guitar, bro.
Nice.
Shred it. How do you shred it? It's a crash cymbal too. Like the crash cymbal should still be ringing.
Yeah. It's dude, I never understood in like a drum I usually use an electronic drum kit, right? And so I would like use these different kits, and like the worst ones would have really short decay crashes, and I'm like, what in what world is there a crash that like that's normally used, that's commonly used, that decays in that short a time? I never understood that.
Bro, in songs where it's like I'm trying to sound electronic, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
this song is like I don't think it's that.
I don't know why there are so many acoustic drum kit sample packs that have these short decay crashes. It's like, what? Find me a song that uses an acoustic drum kit that uses short decay crashes like that. It's always weird. Or rides. But anyways, let's. I mean, most of my stuff's gonna be in the production area, but should you do vibes first?
Excuse me. Yeah. So I think the guitar playing here is fantastic. Good job. I love the kind of big room. I don't know. It's not like a flanger. You know your guitar effects better than I do, Josh, but it just has a nice atmosphere and feel to it.
It's
I think,
doubled.
yeah, it's doubled.
Right.
Yes, chorus. It sounds like a chorus.
Well, that's what doubling does. It makes it sound like a chorus.
Exactly. Um, I'm trying to think of like vibes. I think that there's just a couple things that give me just a vibe of it's a little bit amateurish, but it's fine. You know, you start where you are, and you can just try to get better and better. Um, and the reason why I say that is just because there's little things that I picked out while listening to it, like the drums. Um, it sounds like you're trying to use like acoustic sounds to make it sound like a real drum set, but I can like immediately tell that it's not, and it just kind of off puts the mood for me in a little bit. So like the crash cymbal and the ride cymbals, they just have an abrupt cut at the end of the sample, and it just tells me like, oh, this is kind of fake sounding. Um, they contrast that with like your really kind of raw and dry vocals that sound nice, by the way. Um, but I do think that there's also kind of a mismatch with those really dry sounding vocals with that really wet and luscious guitar that's happening. So I'd like a little more just a match with everything. Like if you're gonna have a guitar that has a long tail and reverb and fills up a whole room, like I'd like to hear that generally speaking with like the rest of the tracks in this kind of style of track. So um that's a lot to say in vibes. So I think overall I would I'd want you to develop it, but I do think there's a lot of like special things here. So I would say it's like 50% between yellow and green for vibes.
Sure.
Um and I'd probably say most of it's in well, content's gonna be samples, but what about you, Josh?
Yeah, no, I was gonna leave most of that kind of stuff for content production, but I mean, I think those are really what feed into vibes. So,
Mhm,
um, yeah, I'd have to agree. Like, I think from a more high level standpoint, um, it doesn't sound like completely like amateurish to me, but
mhm.
it's more
It's a step up for sure.
like I mean,
It's
we
not beginner.
we've obviously also been through like the sort of ramp up of like skills in different areas, and like I think most people at first when they're recording, there's like some commonalities of the stuff that start off not the best and then improve. And there's a certain sound that, like, especially us musicians can tell, like, oh yeah, that's a little bit like beginner, right? Like probably sort of on the beginner end on that side, and it just takes time to improve.
Mhm,
But yeah, it's definitely there's a couple things like with the delivery, aka like the playing, and a couple things with the production that can be improved. I think we can give tips on.
mhm,
But overall, like there's a lot that I'm impressed by too that I know a lot of people at that level can't are not as good at, right? Like there's a lot of things that are really well done also. So
mhm,
yeah, I think for vibes, I would also give it like 50% between yellow and green
mhm. Yeah, you're
content.
gonna go to content? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I could go to it. So yeah, I want to piggyback off what he said. Like there are things to like here. When I was reading the description, and then like I'm like, oh no, it's gonna be a sad song. It might be sappy. Um, and like the lyrics, I think were first of all very personal, which is like it's kind of sometimes like it's weird to hear how personal some things are, but it also it's interesting because it's not something that I hear all the time. Like with the other
Yeah.
track, right? It's just like I've heard like these exact bars before. It's
Right.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nothing's really interesting here. But this guy's like telling his actual story, and it's not really sappy. It's like just telling what happened. Like,
Yeah,
I really,
it's like, oh, that's kind of relatable.
yeah, yeah, and like the hook wasn't like a cringy hook at all. Like it was actually kind of interesting, and it got like catchy. So there are some like very, excuse me, that's the timer. Very redeemable qualities here for content, and yeah, I think the artistry is pretty awesome. Um, I would put the sample content of the drums to be here, and the fills kind of sounded um, like I would say that would it be triplet bass? I'm trying to think. What I would
It's in
expect on this kind
12/8,
of
right?
song. Yeah, it would be like basically fills that sound a little more triplet based
Oh,
rather
yeah,
than
yeah.
just
Do,
strict eight.
do, do, do,
Yeah,
do, 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 do,
yeah,
right?
like something like that. Shoo doo 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 psh,
Yeah,
versus
right,
like
right.
shoo dum
Do,
dum dum.
do, do, do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see
So
that.
like, like and I'm a drummer and I sometimes I feel like that uh so I feel your pain. Like sometimes fills are hard to come up with, but
Yeah,
that's the if I were to give you feedback, like that's what I would like change as a session drummer. Um but yeah, so there's a lot to like. The structure seemed fine. I don't think I was really particularly bored at any point. Um you shred on the guitar. There was a little bit of sync issues, I think, like, we call it being in the pocket, just everybody's in on time, all the instruments are on time with each other, and they're locked in.
all the
During
all the iterations of you are in time with each other.
Yeah, if this is all you, by the way, let us know, like, that's pretty
Sounds like it
impressive, so,
probably is, maybe. I don't know.
yeah, so, but yeah, so I would just, like, make sure that each take is kind of in pocket with each other, because it sounded like it lost the glue to holding everybody together during the solo, the last solo especially, so, um all that being said, I would say this is I'd say like 60% between well actually these are kind of a little I guess these are holding it back a lot. So I would say maybe like 25% between green and yellow, more on the developed side cuz I think pocket being in pocket is very important for a recording that people are going to listen to over and over again.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, I was just thinking about how to structure feedback for this, and I think arguably the most important thing out of anything that needs improvement is the pocket. I wouldn't even just say that. It's just like playing in time on all the different instruments.
Mhm.
Um, there's it's pretty noticeable throughout, I would say. And it's always hard to like give that feedback because it's not something that's super easily correctable, right? But there's
Yeah,
no way
perform it better.
there's no way around it, right? Like if you're planning on continuing with your music career, it's either like you will learn, right? Your timing will improve the more that you play and the more that you record, especially too. Like when
Yep.
you're recording live instruments, especially with yourself and with a click, that all takes time to get used to. It's not easy like for anybody. So
Mhm.
that's the main thing that I would say to work on is like for your drums and your guitars and your vocals. Everything is a little bit out. So just pay really careful attention. You could try little tricks. I mean, try just practicing with metronomes on all those instruments. That can help a ton. Try playing with other people a little bit more often. It might be difficult if you don't do it a lot yet, because it's tough to like match with other people's tempo and that kind of thing. But it's just practice. It's the only way. It's the only way to get there. So
Yeah.
yeah, timing super important for content. On the lyrical side, I think every once in a while I do hear a song or an artist that has like a more straight ahead, like straightforward lyrical style that's really can be really refreshing, right? Because I think a lot of the lyrics we hear are kind of like catchphrases almost, like
Yep.
put together, and there's a reason for that. It's sort of like helps the liquor go down, right? Like it helps make things kind of easier to like remember along to and more musical perhaps. But it's also nice to hear that refreshing honesty. So I did hear definitely a few lyrics that I think were just phrased a little bit awkwardly, and I don't know if English is necessarily your first language.
Right.
I sort of saw from your description and from some of the lines in there it might not be. So that's also something I don't know if you intend like who your influences are. Um, I know a lot of like people from all around the world who aspire to like English, like world international radio or whatever international audience. Um, Somehow manage to sing in English without a noticeable accent, which is crazy to me. I don't know how anybody can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if that's something that you aspire to or if you want to be more of like a sort of I find that there's a lot of pop music in Europe that is in English, but you can tell is not native English speakers, and that stuff does really well there. So it just depends on where you want to be, but it's harder to find that I think in the U.S. Like you don't hear a lot of unless unless it's Spanish, and if it's trying to be its own, it's like home culture, right? When you've got like this, the first song we heard where it's like half English and half Spanish, that can do really well.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're kind of like hiding it and like pretending to be like sounding like an American artist, but the accent is there, it can be a little bit off-putting.
Yep.
So that could be one thing. And again, just the phrasing of the singing, the timing of the singing are all important. So yeah, I think for those things being said, oh, maybe one small like production content thing in terms of your sound choices. We talked about earlier, but sample choice for the drums. I would search around through a few more kits. You can like swap out individual drums in those kits usually if like the crash is not working well. I would say like it always sounds more fake with one of those short decay crashes in those kits. I don't know why, but
Mm-hmm.
get rid of that, change it out for like a smoother, more natural acoustic sounding thing. Also, a big important thing, also production, but sort of content. Your reverbs for all of the different things are not cohesive at all.
Yep.
So your guitars are like pretty much covered in reverb right from the beginning, and it's a nice reverb. I do think you chose a good reverb,
Mm-hmm.
but compared to everything else, then your vocals pretty dry, right? Vocals pretty dry and quite present, so you might be recording a little bit too close to the mic, right?
Yep.
Doesn't sound quite as natural if you're, at least 6 to 8 inches away, if not more,
Mm-hmm.
depending on your preamp.
Size
But
matters.
yes, true.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just like those, that's a recording thing, right? And then making sure that you put everything together in a way that doesn't have like one giant reverb on one instrument and then no reverb on another. That's an amateur sort of giveaway. Um, and same thing, like, I don't know, later there's a few more production things, but all that being said, content, I would give it, I would say like 45% between yellow and green because there's like the songwriting is good and it's like it's structured really well. It doesn't get boring even though it's 4 minutes. Love the double like bridges or choruses with the solos. That's awesome in a ballad. And yeah, and your writing and all that stuff playing is in a lot of ways good, but those other aspects are really important.
Yep.
So then production, do you have any thoughts on that?
I kind of said it in my vibes and content already,
Mhm.
and I have a feeling you're gonna hit. You've already hit my reverb topic better than I could, so go for it.
Yeah, so I mean, the reverb is one. The going a little bit back to the beginning, also that guitar, your guitar tones are also really good. That was one thing I was impressed by. I think they don't sound like fake. Like I hear a lot of if you just pull up like an amp in your DAW, there are a lot of them that people don't like tweak the presets and they just sound super fake. But yours sounded good. Only critique is that the one that you're doing the doubled thing on the whole time is a little bit bright, maybe. Um, it's a little bit too bright and jangly. It's not
Usually.
bad. It doesn't like hurt the ears, but it's on the edge of kind of being suspect.
Mm,
So I would just be careful with how bright that tone is.
mm, mm.
Um, I think the doubles sounded good, or what was going on there didn't. They weren't like mismatched or anything. Your bass tone sounds. I'm pretty sure that's an amp emulator in your DAW. I don't know why so many of them have that tone. There's like a weird low end thing where there's not a ton of actual like low end, let's say below 90 hertz or something. Um, but there's more of like the sort of 90 to 120 hertz range. And it doesn't like have quite the same bottom end or the same oomph as like a real bass amp or like a DI'd bass that's treated with something more like a compressor and EQ. You might not even need like an amp stack emulator, right? For bass guitars, I know that as a guitar player, you probably go straight to an amp emulator like I often do, but bass, if you've got a good signal chain, you can just DI it in, put some nice, compressor, something with a little bit of saturation. Think it as more like running it into a mixing board or a console that has some outboard gear, because that's usually how it's done on a lot of the records that you hear. Either that or it's a combination of a mic'd bass and a DI. So you can do that. You can use the DI and the amp emulator, but just be careful about having too much of that sort of throaty, like low mids forwardness. It just doesn't sound as like foundational as a real DI'd bass would.
Yeah,
So
less throaty, more bottom end. Here at Fast.
it's Fast Track Sunday.
That's right.
Um, yeah, so that's something.
The Lord's Day.
Your guitar solos. Oh, this should have been more in content, but the solos, you're doing a lot of cool stuff there. I can tell that you're a good guitar player. Um, there was a little bit of an overuse of like those whole step bends in some places where they're like sort of a little bit outside of the scale. I'm trying to think if you're like going to a ninth or a sixth or something that's like it's technically in the scale, but it feels a little bit amateurish, and that I know that's hard to like pinpoint what that means in this sense, but I would just like
It's like,
don't.
oh look, I could do this. Let me
Yeah,
keep doing it.
that's kind of what it is. Like you need to think more about the melody that you're creating because ultimately that's what a guitar solo is. It's like a voice or a melody mixed. The way I think about it, it's melody mixed with tricks, right? So like it's partly like you show that you can do something cool and interesting on guitar, but it's also supposed to be melodic and have some sort of structure, like motifs or like repeating elements throughout, or like like a story to it, an energy build.
Mhm.
And when I hear people just repeatedly doing bends like that, it's super obvious. Like, oh, they're just trying to show that they can bend. And even worse, if all of the bends aren't super accurate, that sounds really amateurish. So don't bend unless you're going to do them perfectly, and don't bend unless it has a purpose. So not just over and over and over.
Mhm.
Um, Again, not bad, but I would say that's an important element there. And your tone is nice there too. So yeah, that's more content.
Yep. Less throaty. Don't bend over here at Fast Track. That's right.
God damn it.
All right. What? Do you have anything on production?
That was production stuff. I mean, like the
Right.
reverb thing and the bass, the low end stuff, it's I can't tell what it needs to be mixed by if you're using the wrong sounds,
I see.
right? So if you're going to replace sounds, it changes everything.
That's true.
So there's a little bit of the leveling and like the high end on that guitar part, and and your we talked about the mic technique, right?
Being too close.
That could be better. You need to put everything in some sort of subtle master bus, not master bus, but create a reverb bus and send a little bit of everything to it and kind of tweak
Yep.
it to make things sound glued together. You could put a very light, like tape saturation on the master bus, or there's other ways to do it that just glues things together. Some sort of light compression, very light. Uh,
Limiter.
you could use a limiter. Limiters are a bit scary because if they're set to the wrong level, you're brick walling.
Yep.
You only need a limiter. I personally think you only need a limiter on a really loud individual instrument or something that's super super dynamic. Or you can use it very carefully on the mix bus, but really it's best for mastering.
Mastering,
It's
right.
best when you're trying to get a hard level for that to stop at, so it doesn't, fuck up the compression algorithms and that kind of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, that's kind of a lot to take in. Hopefully, that's like useful information.
Yep.
But I would give you probably like a 20 or 30% on the production side. I think he needs a little bit more work there.
I was gonna say that 25% as well.
Cool.
Yeah, we blasted our 5 minute,
Yeah,
thing,
uh, I
but
mean,
it needed. There's a lot of things to need to say.
yeah, well, the
Hopefully it'll help.
5-minute thing, I was sort of spacing out. Probably 10 minutes is more accurate because usually we spend
Possibly.
15. So a
Yeah.
33% improvement is probably what we can hope for. But some of
Yes.
these just do
Some
have
of the songs,
more,
right.
yeah, some just have more feedback that they need. So
Yeah.
yeah, hope it's helpful.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sending in the music. And the last thing you should do is stop making music. You should continue and keep practicing and
I
get
thought you were
better and
saying
better.
like, and the last thing that you should do is just stop making
Stop
music.
making music. Nah, nah.
No, don't stop making music.
Yeah, don't stop making music.
You're on a good
You'll get
track.
better with time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I would say it's like 30%, 40% between good to go and develop. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I think that seems accurate.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
Cool.
stuff that's really good and a lot of stuff that could be improved for next time. So yeah,
Yeah, we'd love to hear.
you're on the way.
Yeah, I would love to hear the next iteration of your sound. I want to say Ed Sheeran, but it's like Ed Sheeran. Like, kind of sounds like Ed Sheeran to me.
The name, yeah.
Yeah, and you said a friend sent you the link. Like, please tell us who it is.
Yeah.
Always interested to see where people come from. So
Nice album art too.
yeah, the album art's fantastic. Captures the mood well. All right, so the next one,
Nice.
it is Yordnads, aka Group 935, a classic submitter here on the Fast Track stream. They have a song title that says "First Album 4," but I highly, oh, I guess that's what it's called.
First
All right,
album, it's maybe song number 4 on first album.
possibly, yeah. It says project description: a way to honor a friend on Twitch. Sluggy D, shout out Sluggy D on
Cool.
Twitch. Is this a finished release? It's a finished release. So, with that in mind, we'll go ahead and listen to it. So, Yordnad's first album. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2.
You've run out of time,
Ooh.
time, time.
This is cool. This is different.
Do you think you can
I love that kick.
Do you believe the lies? Twisted up in your mind. You run out of Do you think you can hide? Do you
This reminds me of the music in like racing video games.
Yeah, I felt that. It's like a trailer music.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that? Huh.
Interesting. I kind of wanted more out of that last little piano part. It's just like one note.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was also like unexpectedly happy. Like,
Yeah.
that was crazy. That was um I'll just go on the first impressions, I guess. Let me start this timer. Slash fives. Where is it? Um that was pretty unique sounding in my opinion. Um I think the main thing that caught my attention, I love, so first of all, I love fucking smash kicks like that. I think it sounds so hard.
I was gonna say I hate it.
You hate it? I love
It
it.
just sounds too meme worthy to me. Like it's not serious. It's like kind of
I could
it's
hear
like a
that.
joke a little bit, but
I think it's meme worthy. Well, not meme worthy. I think it's uh good when it's used correctly,
yeah, yeah,
or like within the right setting. But this setting, it does seem a little bit odd. Um, the intro is like, it was cool. It was unique. I didn't know what to expect.
yeah.
But as I listened to the whole song in its entirety, I feel like the sample that you're using, the recording, it's like oversaturated with effects to make it feel far away, or maybe like a reverb.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah,
I can't really like pick out any individual parts. It's all kind of just blended together.
yeah,
Seems right down the middle, and like I think it's suffering in your mix. Like I think the overall idea and the overall song structure is like pretty interesting and pretty cool, but um, just that one design choice of just kind of drenching it and everything, and it kind of just blends all of the cool, interesting parts together into one kind of mess of sound wall, and I can't really understand what's happening. But like I think the singer was sounded great. It's almost like weekendish,
mhm.
and the soundtrack sounded like I'd love to hear it without the effects, but it sounded like a movie soundtrack, trailer type thing. So, um, yeah, I would say like a lot of the individual things I really liked, but the way it come together, um, it didn't feel quite as professional to me, and I feel like it could have been a little bit better. So overall, to say, I think vibes that would be like 30% between green and yellow. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I could agree a little bit on sort of the feeling of mismatch between like the like I guess verses you could call them and the choruses from a vibes perspective, right? So
Mhm,
it they just I don't know if they just if they match so well, right? Like and I would agree about the production stuff, but I won't get into that now.
mhm,
Vibes, for me, I would give it like a 25% between yellow and green.
mhm. Yeah, and like I want to say, like that leads me into content, which a lot of the stuff I liked. A lot of the structure I thought was really cool.
Mhm.
I like the sample choice, even though Josh might not like it. I think it could have been
I
done
like the
better.
rest of it. I like the rest of
Yeah,
the stuff, but it just felt a little out of place. It was like,
yeah. I think I would have liked it better for sure. And like I'm trying to see. It's like I think most of my qualms and a lot of the stuff that goes into the vibes part is probably going to be in production. And content wise speaking, like the samples that you chose, the kind of structure of the whole thing, I thought it was I thought it was a pretty enjoyable listen. Like this
yeah,
is one of those times where I was just like kind of enthralled through all the way through. It's a nice short song, but there's a lot of variety. There's seems to be a story. It does seem like unfortunately that sample sounds very luscious, but I can't really get into the stereo space of it. It seems like it's all down the middle and kind of just sound walled in the drops that I can't really pick apart what's happening. So it's kind of a shame. I'm trying to reel it back into content though. So content, it's like we think of it as samples, we think of it as arrangement, um, we think of it as like lyrics if there's any, but I mean, there was lyrics here. I couldn't really pick them out, so maybe there's a doc for that. But for the most part, I kind of liked it. So I would say it's like 75 to 80% between green and yellow. What do you think, Josh?
yeah. No, I'd agree. I think it sort of keeps you going along. Like, oh, like what's gonna happen next? It was kind of unique, right?
Yeah, the intro
Um,
was unique as fuck, and I had a lot of potential. I think it was pretty
yeah,
cool.
the intro and the other quiet section are both like they're not like a super repetitive structure at all, so they keep you going along.
Mhm,
I think the choruses they're not complete. They're like not simple, right? So that does keep you kind of listening.
mhm,
By the second one, I was like, oh, okay, it's the same thing again.
mhm.
Which is also a contrast from the verses, which are so unique. So, and that might just also be that I was like, oh shit, like now it's going to be the super compressed, super loud part that's
Sound wall,
kind of
yeah.
annoying. Yeah. So
Look at the
that's
waveform.
yeah for content like the structure is cool and the content is cool. So and there's a couple of maybe small things like that. The way it goes out, that was also like, oh come on, like it was just confusing because it gets quieter and then we hear like an iota of like a piece of something and then it disappears
Sadly.
and it's just over.
Maybe it
So
goes to the next track in the album, I don't know, but
maybe that could be, but yeah, I don't know. It sounded a little bit like kind of wish-washy. It was like, what are we doing here? Are we just ending, or are we gonna do a little thing, or we're in the middle right now, so let's decide, like,
yeah,
whether we just go out quickly or take a little bit more time to do a piano thing, but not like one note. So,
yeah,
um, yeah, that's just sort of a flow thing, right?
yeah.
But yeah, I would give it a probably a like a 75% of the content.
There you go. All right, Josh, tear him up for production.
Oh boy! All
In
right.
the second row, Winter Drake. Looks like you found out. We do have a queue of people, so if we would get to you, we will get to you. If not, though, if you do submit, we will definitely get to you eventually, whether it's this week or next week. But thank you for
Yes.
stopping by.
Yep.
Also, we might be doing in the future to like tip if you're able to like tip us, and you can go in the front of the queue if you don't want to wait uh in the back of the queue. So
Mhm.
just putting that out there. But yeah,
Yeah.
production, Josh, tear it up.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
I think the main thing that I heard from the beginning was, the reverb cloak, right?
Mhm.
The big invisibility cloak. It doesn't really work for
Mm-mm.
invisibility, but anyways, it's just like, I like that the
It mirrored
samples
everything.
is in that reverb, and again, it's not a bad reverb, but, then, like, the lower end, especially when you put something with low end content in there,
Mhm.
you have to sort of expect if you do that to get sort of a bandpass effect, but again, I often find that when people are have something that I can't tell if they're trying to bandpass it, like the radio effect, right? It's just confusing, right? It doesn't sound quite as sweet or like satisfying as when it's like a more narrowly bandpass thing, but it doesn't sound as good as if it was a broadband spectrum
Yeah.
section. So like sort of make up your mind there, like whether you want it to be fuller sounding or sort of more narrow, and then so it can open up for something after it. Um, but yeah, I would say make sure you're not putting everything in a reverb that's doing that unintentionally.
Mm.
Generally not a great way to do it. And then the next most, and that's also, it could be partly that everything's in a reverb in the choruses there because everything's kind of mixing together. It's a little bit it's like a soup. It's like a little bit mushy or so. It's like everything is stuck together and there's no definition between the parts.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think like that's kind of the most consistent issue throughout. The second one would be the leveling and probably the compression or limiting or whatever in the choruses.
Mhm.
I really like the verses are really enjoyable to listen to, right? They're very like dynamic. They don't like hurt your ears at all of
Mm.
that stuff. And then when it goes into the chorus, it's like time to modulate, time to ride the volume knob,
Yep.
right? So I love the dynamics, but it's sort of a double-edged sword if the chorus is not dynamic, which you can kind of tell from the waveform. It's pretty compressed.
Yeah, it's brick walled.
Um, and then it goes way down in volume. So you could mitigate that by just making sure that writing some automation so that that whole section you could probably even put it on the master bus, um, to make that more comparable in volume, and then not squash your chorus as much with compression. I would say you could also just write an automation curve for the choruses that puts a little bit less volume into your master bus or wherever you've got that compression or limiter on. That'll
Mhm.
help to not squash it so much and even the whole song out. So
Mm.
yeah, that's pretty much all I've got. I think for that, I would say production is um like a 25% yellow to green.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's like 20%.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Because
that.
I think that was like the main thing that brought it down for me. Because there's a lot to like here,
Hmm.
and I just want to kind of reiterate the reverb on that sample. Um, it affected the whole song, like
Yeah,
from the verse to the chorus. Like the chorus, like I expected, like especially for EDM, to be kind of brick walled and smashed, and like I expect those drums to be smashed like that too. But it's just like also when it's reverb like that, it kinda smears all of the elements
yeah,
that could be cool on their own together, and so I just end up getting this sound wall of not only sound wall in terms of, like, amplitude with the smashing of the limiter or compressor or
yeah,
whatever you put on it, but I also get it in terms of the frequency spectrum, like, all the different, like, voices and, like, pads and synths that are happening with that sample. It's just blurred together into just this big sound wall that, by the way, sometimes hurts to listen to.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my kind of take on it. For an overall, it's like I really like the artistry on this, but there's a lot that you need to work on, I would say, on production. This is a finished release, so you know it looks like it's your first album too. So, 4 months ago, I can't wait to hear some newer stuff. Send us some of your new stuff, man. Like Jordan, send us some stuff that you're working on. We'd love to hear stuff before you release it. So, I would say it's like 40 to 50% between green and yellow. What about you, Josh?
On the total score. Yeah, by the way, just before that, I was gonna say about the, like, compression and, like, smearing part, it's very true that if you have a reverb over everything, it already is smearing all of the elements in the time domain, right? Because it's just carrying things over, and you've just got all these frequencies that are stepping on each other's feet. But, also, like, when you compress it, that problem gets worse because the reverb tails are brought up in volume, and so now you've just got all this stuff smearing across your whole mix the whole time.
Mhm.
And it's not that we're like anti-compression or something, right? It's
Nope.
just that like if you don't fix problems before it, compression is not the issue. It's more like the symptom in this case, right? That it's like causing additional issues.
Mhm.
Um, if you have
Brings out
things,
those issues, yeah.
yeah, if your constituent elements are really clean and they're not stepping on each other's feet, you can go crazy with compression limiting and get something that sounds really full and compact and like perfect, right?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of electronic music that's like that, and it's
Oh
not a
yeah,
problem that it's such a consistent level and it's like brick wall. There's a lot of brick walled stuff that sounds great in
fantastic.
my opinion, but
Skrillex.
yeah, but again, it's like the difference between like packing the back of like a truck really like neatly where everything fits in perfectly versus like throwing a bunch of boxes in and like stuffing them in,
Mhm.
right? And you don't get as much out of it either, like from a physical space standpoint in that case. But
Mhm.
from a sonic perspective, you don't get as much mileage out of that decibel level if things are clashing with each other and covering each other up. Could you say that again? No, I can't say that again. Jesus Christ.
Damn, sir.
But the point is that like if you clean things up, you can use more of that headroom like in a useful way because otherwise your masking basically means you're using like volume and level and it's disappearing because your instruments are canceling each other out from a physics perspective.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's super important. But I think total score, I would give it probably yeah like a 40% between yellow
Mhm.
and green.
Mhm. Yes, that's about where I was at. So thank you again, your dads. Please submit some newer stuff. We'd love to hear it, and we do works in progress. So we'd love to hear your work in progress. Just want to say
Yup.
shouts out to people in the chat.
Shout out.
We had Winter Drake. We had Really Trash. Nice name. We had Izo, who was asking about feedback and beats. We do that. We do want to say that we have a queue right now, and we're trying to go as fast as we can to get through them, but we might not get to everybody. But know that if you submit using that form, we will get to you either this week or next week. So, and we're also working on a system where you can jump the queue if you'd like to get it immediately through like a tipping system. We just
Right.
got our what is it? Offer to be what is it?
Twitch affiliates.
Affiliates. So maybe
Right.
we have that sub button or the fucking tip button or whatever
Yeah.
tier. I don't know,
Right.
shit like that. But yeah, so we'll go to the next person here, which is Toad Milk. The song title is called "Low Self Concept."
Interesting
Um,
name.
yes, project description says I was sad. So
Title.
yeah, there it
Low
is.
self
So
concept.
yeah, here we go. Shout out Courage the Cowardly Dog on that profile picture, but here it is. Toad Milk. 3, 2, 1. What happened?
The song
Oh,
is
there.
funny.
It didn't play for me at first. Sorry.
No. Wow. That's a real theory, I guess.
Is this text to speech Microsoft Sam? I love drum and bass. Oh, I love these fills. Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, who does this remind me of? discussion about them the other Venetian snares,
Hmm.
super good. This seems unmastered though.
Yeah, yeah. Nice, I like that. Super high,
That synth? Yeah.
goes up the octave.
I really like the artistry in this. This is awesome.
With good variation in the drums.
I love it. I'm a drummer, so I love this shit.
Oh, there's the filter open, that's nice.
Toadcore made his own genre.
Crazy.
Hyperpop, like I didn't get to feel that.
I can still hear yours playing, that's funny. Um,
Cool.
yeah,
That was cool. I fucking love that shit.
yeah, it was cool. You wanna do your vibes?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Drums crazy, much transient in the heights, but really nice song. Love it. Thank you, really trash. Shit, hold on.
Thank you, really, Chad.
Yeah, that's not my opinion of the song.
Yeah.
So I would say vibes is kind of my journey through this song is like the beginning is like what is Microsoft Sam trying to tell me right now? I don't understand. It was a little kind of like off-putting. I don't know. Like if I would hear that versus what the rest of the song has to offer. And how long does it go? Like 30 seconds? Maybe like 20 seconds before the drums come in. Um, that might be enough for me to be on a SoundCloud feed and skip it. So
Really?
I would just, yeah, I think so. Like this Microsoft Sam stuff. Let me
I
see.
didn't I don't know the reference, so well, I don't know if I was supposed to be off put by it or something.
I
But
don't know. It's just like confusing, but
but I mean, there are a lot of songs out there that have, like, a sample of, like, a vocal thing, like, there's a couple of dubstep who is that? There's somebody who has, like, an Alan Watts sample for, like, a long time in their
for
song.
sure.
It's interesting because he's, like, interesting to listen to,
Yeah.
but, this was sort of like that where I was like, "What does low self-concept mean?" And then
Hmm.
I kind of liked that it was, like, almost explaining it in a way, like, giving you context, right? And that
Hmm.
it was a real thing, it wasn't just, like, they came up with a weird song title. It's like they maybe stumbled across this and thought it was like an interesting idea or something.
Hmm.
So I don't know if there's some other context to it that's
Hmm.
off-putting, but I thought it was like kind of a nice fresh take that you don't often hear.
For sure. Yeah, I could see that. Um, I was just kind of coming from the perspective of like a SoundCloud discovery type thing.
Yeah, sure.
Um,
But some people
I
might be like, "What is this? It's different," and they might like keep listening
It's
to it.
true.
The opposite.
Yeah, and it is IDM, so like it's kind of the field of people that would be a lot more tolerant to it.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was like kind of my journey, and then like the drums come in, I'm like, I love these samples, like this
Yeah.
is good. And dude, you just go crazy on those breaks, man.
Yeah.
Like I dropped a name, like, and I'm not too versed in the IDM space, but I love a couple songs from Venetian Snares, who does this kind of like chop breaks with the pretty much this is I'm pretty sure this is the Amen break sample, and you just do a fantastic job, man. This is super cool to listen to, and the melody it was kind of simple, but and it like repeated, but you did interesting stuff like go up an octave and filter some stuff out, and with drum and bass, the kind of genre it's kind of the genre that you can just kind of tune out to. Oddly enough, with all these crazy drum shit that's happening, like you could just kind of chill to it. It doesn't need to change too much, and it can
Hmm.
be a really good song. So, like overall, man, like this is like a diamond in the rough. I feel like this is really cool to
Yeah.
listen to. Um, I would just say like, and I would counter kind of Josh's point a little bit. Like it is like a very unique beginning, but it's like as a smaller artist, it might turn off people that could actually really like your music on a discovery point. Someone like me, for example, because I feel like this is a really cool song. So, but all that to say, I think the vibes are pretty much like 80% green. Like this is really an enjoyable listen. Good job. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I liked it. I won't say much more than that, but,
Oh, I do think, by the way, it just doesn't seem like it's mastered. So
yeah,
that's
but
another.
that's not vibes, but,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I would say, yeah, I fucking liked it. Won't take much more time for anything than that, but,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I would give it, like, an 85% of between yellow and green.
There you go.
Couple of things again, everything affects the vibes, it affects the way you feel when you hear it, the more technical things feed into that, right? Because why else
Hmm.
would they exist?
Hmm.
So yeah, what about content? What do you think?
Um, the fucking brakes kicked ass.
Yeah.
The synths kicked ass. Uh, Filters kicked ass.
Yeah,
Really,
there's
for me, like content's like golden. And I did have that comment in the beginning, but I do understand what Josh is saying. It's unique, and it is unique. It's just like weird. What is this? What is happening?
yeah,
Um,
definitely unique.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I can't really comment too much on that. Maybe if someone was reading it, but then it wouldn't be as weird. So,
Really, I
yeah,
feel like I feel like I've heard a lot of examples of songs that have, like, spoken samples like that, and it's like,
sure,
"Oh, that's cool."
sure, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really subjective, is as I would say. But I mean, everything else, I think it was really cool content. This is fantastic. I think it's pretty much green. I don't think I can really take away too much from it. Maybe that beginning, I'll put it like a 95%, but it's pretty much green. Like this is cool.
Yeah, I would say I'd maybe flip-flop it a little bit. I mean, I don't mind the beginning part, I actually think it adds to the song. I think if
Mhm.
it was just the music part, it wouldn't be as unique or interesting to me.
It's true.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and especially because you don't like lyrics, right? So it's like it gives some meaning other than just sound.
That's true. The
Um,
whole name is based off that intro.
yeah, and I like that sort of like I was like, what the hell is slow self concept? And it's like, oh, that's it. I kind of want to learn more about like what the fuck that actually is.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are a few things that could be maybe like considered a little bit more carefully about. Well, first of all, the way that you're doing like the drum variation stuff is super cool, super pro. Like, love it. It doesn't sound like you're trying to rehash stuff ever really. It's very like flowing and unique. Generally I like the points when you had filter sweeps I liked. I think there might have been like that middle section right after it gets a little bit quieter there. Up until like one of those profile photos
Hmm.
felt a little bit stagnant to me. Like there was the drum variation, but it was like the same volume. I think overall the volume was a little bit low too, but that's production.
Yep.
Um, there's like the same volume. There wasn't a lot changing. And then when the filter sweep came in, I was like, yes, this is what I needed. Right. But I wish there was a little bit more like maybe like filter action happening throughout. And then also when that filter sweep opened up, it wasn't quite as wide as I was hoping it would be. Like I was wondering like, like things sound a little bit again like the sort of slight bandpass where I don't actually know if it's intentional or not because it's halfway in the middle,
Hmm.
right? You're like either not filtering enough or well, you're definitely not filtering too much. So I'm like trying to figure out if it's for effect or it's just like a mishap in the production side.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just like, be really mindful of the way you use the filters and use them as part of the story. Um, and I don't know, like just make sure that the balance of sort of where that stuff happens and how long and what it opens up to is what is right and what you want it to be. And
Hmm.
then again, I don't know why there's so many of these. People never know how to end songs, I feel like. But I was just like, what? Like it's very common, but I'm like, there's got to be a more succinct, like tighter way to end the song than the way it did. And maybe it's just not finished yet. I also know that usually the ending is the part that people work on last, often in songs. And if you keep listening to the song, you're doing all this work and you've worked on the whole song for so long, you often don't revisit the ending. So a lot of people just like are like, oh, that doesn't matter. And then even when you get to the end stage, you're like, well, I haven't worked on that now, so it must not really matter. So yeah, I would pay a little more attention to how you end it and making it a little bit more like I don't know, less awkward. That's the main problem is it's like kind of dies out in a weird way.
Hmm.
But yeah, content. I think there is a little bit of room for improvement in the overall flow of the song, even if
Hmm.
like the parts and that stuff are good, and I like the melody thing and the synth line. I would give it like an 80, like again like an 85 on the content side.
Yeah, I could see how that middle section it kind of lulled for a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, But yeah, again, that's why I kind of brought up like my experience with DMB. It's pretty. I feel like that's pretty forgivable, but I understand where Josh is coming from.
I think for
Um,
me, like, also, if there's a long section that's really, like, pleasing, right? Like, it's the
mhm,
right amount of, like, filter and everything sounds really good, then I don't
mhm,
mind it as much, but when I feel like the level's a little weird, I can't really tell if it's supposed to be filtered or not, the mixing maybe isn't totally finished, then I'm like, "Can we get to something else, please?"
mhm.
Right?
Yep,
It's like if you have a bad taste in your mouth, you wanna get it out, but if you have a good taste, you don't.
I
So,
want to savor that umami. That's
yeah.
true. Um, yeah. Okay. Production. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is the levels. So,
Yeah, me too, dude. I think this is if this was mastered, like, man, I think this could be almost purple category for me personally because the drum breaks were just so cool. But
yeah, I hope they would sound I mean, I think they could sound really good if properly mixed and mastered.
yes,
Um, I don't
but
really
that's a big
know.
ask to do properly mix and master. So
Right,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's a narrow target to hit.
Hmm.
But, yeah, I would say, like, I do like the variation in the samples. There are a couple points where I'm like, those samples are really different, like snare samples, and I
Hmm.
like the idea of having the different snare samples, but I just wonder if there's a way to make them sound a little bit more like they're supposed to be together, like a little bit more cohesive.
Hmm.
And again, we've talked about tricks for like putting things under the same compressor or adding a little bit of color with like a saturator or something like that, or even an EQ can actually help a little bit. um, Something or a reverb or a delay, something to tie similar elements together a little bit more might be useful there. And then again, like I don't think your loudest sections are even up as loud as they could be, and the lower sections are again a little bit lower relative to the loud part than they probably could be. So
Hmm.
that's the main thing. I also got a weird feeling, like similar to what I was talking about with the filtering aspect. Like I feel like I'm missing something sonically in
Hmm.
the spectrally. You had like these pads that were had a lot of low end sort of in the background, but then I also felt like your kick didn't really have a lot of thump to it.
Hmm.
Like the main instruments sort of didn't have as much of that as I want, and there was something that maybe unintentionally had some low end with it. But I felt a little bit weird about where that was placed and how like how much foundation it felt like the mix had. So I don't know. Like again, that's a thing that feels to me like it hasn't really been adequately mixed or mastered, and that
Hmm.
usually helps to sort of fill out the spectrum, and compression can help with that a little bit too. But yeah, that was something that I sort of felt throughout on that side. So I think production, I would give it probably like a 35% between yellow and green.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty solid yellow. Like I'd say 15%. And
Sure.
to me, it sounds like this person really loves the creation. It's probably like a lot of people really loves the creation aspect of it. But like just like fuck it, I don't really want to mix and
Yeah, well,
master.
you can outsource it too. Just find somebody who's got good reviews or whatever that you
Yeah,
know and have them mix and master it.
yeah, man. I mean, like for the most, yeah, like there's like yeah. I mean, I'd just be repeating a lot of what Josh is saying, but yeah, like dude, this is very cool music to listen to. I'd love to hear this. And it looks like one of your friends says it too. Like this part of the song makes me want you to release it on
Yeah,
Spotify.
everyone wants it on Spotify and be
Shout
released.
out, yeah, shout out Eddie Orange. Like, bro, like I mean, do it for your fans, man. Like, get it properly mixed and mastered. Like, just outsource it to an engineer, and then they could do all that dirty work for you. You could do the stuff that you really like to do, and that frankly, you're really quite good at. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So overall score, um, I mean, for the production aspect, the way it's packaged, it's like I can't say it's good to go. Um, so it's like 50 between green and yellow, but with an asterisk of like, I think this is purple material in terms of like artistry. I think it's really fantastic. And me personally, purple is kind of subjective. So it's like me personally, I really like listening to this. It was really cool.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah, I think total score, I'd give it probably like honestly like a 40% between yellow and green. And it's
Mhm.
also maybe personal preference. Like, I don't know. I mean, I like drum and bass stuff, but I don't know if I like it that much,
I love
honestly.
it.
Um, yeah, it's cool to listen to. It's sort like sort of background music, not as like a insult, but
Mhm.
it's driving right and has rhythm to it.
Mhm.
and I do feel like there's a lot of work to it. Sort of feels like a draft to me a little bit in
Yep.
terms of the way it's sort of packaged. Again,
Yep.
is more what it is. So yeah, but cool stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Super
sending
cool.
it in.
Yes, thank you so much. Shouts out to Really Trash in the chat, giving us some feedback there. Drums crazy, much transient in the heights. Uh,
It was a little bit bright. It was again like the sort of filter aspect. Like there's a little
right.
bit of spectrally things were a little bit weird. I thought.
Mm-mm. And next we got Blastique, song called Monica. It's a finished release. It's on Spotify. It's a heartbreak slash loved themed Afrobeat song.
Hmm.
Bro, more
Interesting.
genres.
I
Love it.
love when we get a different genre.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just looking at the lyrics of it too. It's like
Wow.
this has got to be a different language.
Yeah, they got the lyrics out here.
Gibon Kiti, Gibon Gabon.
It looks
I,
fun. I like it.
bro, I wish I could pronounce it, but
It's like
it's just
half English and it's
bro.
cool.
Whoa, I'm scrolling down a little bit. I like big breasts. I like big nyash.
Wait, not yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. This is gonna be fun, I think. So, Blastique, Monica, 3, 2, 1. Oh, that MIDI sax. Let's go.
Bankity bang bang bang, bankity bang bang bang, echo bang. Baby girl, come be Messiah, my own
Wow,
a
nice
desire.
voice.
I like it. Yeah.
I go love you tire, baby girl, me I no go tire. I go give you all of me, you go give me all of you. Make you know they draw me, they know they draw me.
What's that mean?
Monica, why you do
I don't know.
me so? Monica, why you do me so?
Bro, that's crazy.
I
Yeah.
gave you my love and I gave you my heart, oh no. Monica, why you do me so?
It's a good
Why
use
you
of
do
auto
that?
tune. It's good.
So, I gave you my love and I gave you my soul, oh no. Mariba Lolo, Mariba. You dey just my brain. You dey bust my brain. You dey make me they want to craze. I they want to craze. Thinking about you on a daily. Even more than the job where they pay me. Alaye go they hear me. Mama he they pay me. I'll be down on my knees. Baby girl I'm begging you please.
Great rhyme schemes.
Take me for me. No go they do me funny. Monica, why you leave me so? Monica, why you leave me so?
It's a catchy ass hook.
Yeah.
I gave you my love and I gave you my heart, oh no. Monica, why you leave me so? Monica, why you leave me so? I gave you my love and I gave you my soul, oh no. I like big breasts, I like big nyash, I like big breasts, I like big nyash, I like big
Same here. I don't know what
nyash.
I don't know what Yash.
You might have to do some Google Translate. Please don't do that, anybody. Oh god. Nice fade too.
Gosh.
Wow. Okay, so really trash said great voice, great stereo image. We didn't know if this was broadcast in stereo or not. It sounds like it is, but I agree. The stereo imaging is quite nice with the drums there and everything.
Yash, definition, bottom, backside. Example, this
Okay.
girl, anytime you want something, you go come they shake Nyash, I beg you. Bro, I can agree. I
Oh my
also
God.
like big Nyash.
Yeah.
Female
That's
booty.
great. Man, this one's fun.
That was fantastic. Yeah.
Here's Blastique.
Blastique. Yeah,
Blastique.
Blastique. That was
Cool,
crazy.
man.
I like that. That was cool.
Vibes.
God. Oh, what is it? I don't want to sound too problematic, but it reminds me of like is it Sean Paul that I'm thinking of back in the day? Like almost almost in the cheesy instrumentation that I heard. Like I literally heard like a fucking MIDI saxophone in the beginning.
Yeah,
And like
reggae, I'd agree too.
yeah, it's like what is it? That little beep in the background too that I hear similar
Yeah.
to that era.
Yeah.
But dude, like I love that type of music. I love it here. Man, this is cool.
I know.
uh I don't like Um, I'm trying to think of it. If there is there anything like bad? I don't think so. Like I really enjoyed this, man. I'm gonna say this is a green, just solid green vibes. I loved it. This is cool,
Yeah, no, I was like a little bit
bro. How did you find us?
yeah,
And like, where are
for
you
real.
from? Like,
Doesn't say in our form, does it?
what are these? What is this? Gum Kiti Gibon Gabon. I mean,
See,
you said it, but I forgot it. But you know,
Translate
like,
should tell you
yeah,
what
like,
language.
where are you from, man? This is cool.
Man, yeah, I mean, I was sort of like surprised because I heard the beginning also, and I couldn't even tell that that was a MIDI sax. I just thought it was like some weird, very dry, like MIDI sound of some sort, right? Like
Mhm,
a weird like synth thing or some old like Casio keyboard. Who knows? But it's weird because then after that, I was so locked into the vocalist that all of that shit didn't matter, right?
mhm,
It's like it sort of fits somehow because it's so fun, right? Like if you're gonna do something like that, if your sounds are gonna be a little bit like kind of cheesy or funny, then
mhm,
you have to like complement it with like a really entertaining like central focus, like a vocalist or something, right?
mhm,
So it somehow worked. You could maybe knock a couple points off for some of the sound choices. Like it could be obviously a little better, but
mhm.
overall the feeling I think that we got from it was super fun. Like
Yeah,
I'd give it green for vibes.
bro, you have 28 monthly listeners. We gotta change
We
that.
gotta
That's
pump that
crazy.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, content. Um, I don't know. There's some like uh maybe like some weird English that's happening here.
Yeah, there's some
Um,
funny stuff. Like
but I also like I go love you tire. Like I
yeah,
don't.
that one. I was like, what?
Yeah, I was like, what does that mean?
Maybe
Uh,
she's a tire.
right. Like, is she tired?
Yeah,
Like, what does that mean? We could go. We could
right,
ask questions like that. But
right.
also, I know that there's like some there's some like slang and like I don't want to. What is it like? What is it called? It's like Spanglish, kind of, but like in different parts of the world. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Jamaican English, for example, is going to
Yeah,
be like different and like all that stuff. So
right.
wherever this person's from, like I imagine a lot of it's probably coming from that area. So I can't knock it too much, but there are some times where it's like, what does "I go love you tire" mean? You know?
And like
And then
make you know day dull me. There's a lot of those days and I wasn't sure what that equates to. Like I know there's like in English there's like
it's probably they, right?
I don't know if they all made sense as they.
Right, right. It's like they or like the
It
sometimes.
sounded more just like a figure of speech, like an A or not like an A, but like a something that you can kind of throw anywhere because it didn't seem like it was like as they.
Yeah,
You day burts my brain, right? Like that wouldn't be a they.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You day make me day want to craze, I day want to craze. Right. So it's something else. It's some sort of like filler word, I think.
Sure, it could be. You
But
day burst
I
my
think
brain. Yeah.
maybe what we're getting at is like some of those things we're just trying to like I think when we were listening, we're like, what does
Mhm,
that mean? It kind of pulls you away from the music a little bit because you're trying to figure out like what it is.
mhm,
And again, like I mean, if you're trying, obviously a lot of this is in English. If you're trying to go for like a multinational audience,
mhm,
you might just want to zone in on a couple of those things that might not translate super well.
mhm.
Um, because again, it's like if somebody hears this and they're like, "What does this mean?" Like, I guess this wasn't made for me, and then they'll like, skip to the next thing. But if you keep it to what it is and just zone in on those few words that don't translate, then it could be a lot more digestible for a wide global audience.
Yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. It's not too big of a deal for me personally because
Yeah,
once I kind of heard that, I was just like this is gonna be throughout the whole song. Like I'm just gonna kind of turn off that part of my brain
yeah,
that's
I agree.
trying to look for that part.
Right.
And I think I got the gist of like the whole song, especially with the hook, which is super catchy and
Yeah.
actually probably one of the best English speaking or like English written. Like Monica, why you do me so? Monica, why you
Yeah,
do me
man,
so?
it's
I gave
great.
you my
It's so
love and I gave
so
you my heart.
pure. Yeah.
Dude, and the it was so catchy. Like
And the rhyme
Monica, why
schemes
you
were
do
great.
me
The
so?
rhyme
Yeah,
schemes were awesome.
yeah. Like there is a couple misspellings here in the lyrics, though, so you might want to
That's true.
like Bert's. You day Bert's my brain, but
Some
um,
capitals and some missing capitals and that kind of thing.
just get somebody to like Grammarly or something. Just get somebody to spell check
Somebody
it real
on
quick.
Fiverr, yeah.
Yeah, so I like big breasts. I like big nyash. Okay.
It's great, man. It's a hit, instant hit.
Bro, I really like this. So content. This might be a purple for me. Like a purple for content. Like, I really
Swear to
like
God.
this. I really like this.
It's
This
really
is
fun.
crazy.
It is really
Yeah.
fun.
Um all right, so what are we on content?
Yeah.
Uh fantastic hook, melody, fantastic singer, man. Um sure there's some cheesy instruments here and there, but like I think it works well here. And there's like a whole kind of subgenre. I'm not too versed in Afro beats, but like I said, Sean Paul back in the day, kind of like a similar vibe to me. Um, and they had like kind of cheesier instruments going on too. So it's dope, man. And yeah, I'm trying to think of any downsides at this point. Like we talked about maybe some of the use of the filler words, but it's like even then, it's like I don't want to. I guess it didn't sound like too much of an issue for me. So, it's pretty much green, maybe 90% green and yellow. What do you think, content?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that some of those instruments are like it, honestly, like I mean, if you're trying to get a lot of listeners, right? I think generally we're assuming, unless it's something that's obviously like kind of avant garde, that people want more fans, right?
Yep.
Um, and sometimes we have to guess a little bit on what the market is, but if it's like a mix of English and anything else, then it's kind of assumed that you're going for a wide audience rather
Mhm.
than just doing it in your language. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that some of those like grammar things could just ever so slightly hinder the ability to reach a wide audience and have
Mhm.
them like repeat listen and stuff. But more than that, just like the sounds, they do kind of, they're not as important, I think, during the lyrical part, because the lyrical part is so like magnetic and good. But like especially towards the intro, that like you would not hear a song come on the radio that sounded like that in the intro, because it's too off-putting. Like even if
Bro, I've heard some Bad Bunny songs that have some pretty
yeah, there's
cheesy.
definitely some, but if you did a side by side comparison, it still would
Sure.
there'd be no comparison.
Yeah, and Bad Bunny has like huge name recognition.
Yeah, right, of course. And
I think he's literally I think he's number 1 in Spotify. I think it's something crazy like
really,
that.
yeah,
I
I know
think
he's
so.
got a ton of streams.
Which
Um, but yeah, I think that's one thing like that could be ramped up, and if I listened again, I might honestly pinpoint more of that. Like, it's a good thing that we were kind of like captivated by the vocal part, but
mhm,
yeah, I think there's some room for improvement on the sound choices for sure. I would give it like an 80-85 on content.
mhm. Bro, Bad Bunny was a fucking professional wrestler?
What?
Anyways,
Okay,
yeah, I didn't know that.
interesting. Cool.
Um, production, I don't have much to say. I was kind of too enthralled with the lyrics.
Yeah.
It seemed like uh, everything was pretty solid. There was a couple points where I thought that the bass was only going through like the right side, or maybe
Mm.
just like a little bit panned. It didn't feel center, which was kind of weird for a bass element. But I mean, other than that, and I couldn't really tell you when that happened because I'd have to listen to it again. But other than that, I think it felt pretty solid. We talked about the cheesy sounds already. That kind of goes between content and production. So for me, it's pretty much 90% between green and yellow. What do you think?
Yeah. Again, I should have tried to focus more on all that stuff, but it's hard to,
Yeah,
especially with the lyrics trying to read along. But
yeah.
yeah, most of it is fine production wise. Again, those sounds are could there's room for improvement with some of the sounds, and I think the use of autotune, I assume it's autotune unless you've like grew up on autotune and like, you know, made it your vocal sound, but it definitely seems to be using autotune in a good way, like in a really fun way. Um, and there were maybe a couple points where I heard a little bit of like artifacting from that or something, like something that could be cleaned up a little bit in like the sort of post-production stage.
Mhm.
Um, and generally, I'd probably have to listen again to really get the gist of like the mastering. It sounded like good sonically for the most part, so I don't think there are any glaring issues there. I'd give it like probably a 90% on production,
Mhm.
just because I can't think of anything else.
Alrighty, there it is. Overall track. What do you think, Josh?
I think, well, so you said possibly
Purple.
purple before, and I'm trying to think about like what that means, right? And also
Yeah.
what that means is having a portfolio of purple. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to like, I think the main thing is that purple is supposed to be an example of like really like great execution on all fronts and something special. And it has the something special, absolutely. And not all
Mhm.
things do. Most things probably don't. But I don't think the execution is like extremely professional, right? It's pretty close, but there's enough for me to be like, if I think I might regret it if it was on there like later to be like, we've got all these songs that are so perfectly done, and then we listen back and we're like, yeah, I love the lyrics still, but like, man, some of these sounds and some of the production choices are like a little bit lacking.
Mhm.
So I would say I think the best consolation I could offer is like 95% good to go because it's not perfect.
Mhm.
But if I was to say like on the vibes scale, if there's a purple, yeah, man, it gets a purple there. It's fun to listen to. I also don't know how fun it would be, like on a second or third listen when you've heard it already and there's not as much novelty factor, and then you start to be able to hear the flaws more.
Mhm.
So, but I like it a lot, man.
I
It's
just listened to the intro
yeah,
again. I'm still in the purple zone.
really.
But yeah, that's the thing. Like to get purple, there's checks and balances. You have to have two. Um, Maybe I'll
It's
keep
so
listening
fun,
to
but
it.
it's not like purple is not just fun,
I'm
right?
adding
It's
this to
it's
my
it's
library.
also got to be like, could it really go big? Could it really be like a widespread hit, consumable thing? And I
Mhm.
think that it has a little bit of ways to go, only 5 or 10%.
Mhm.
But that still is that's what makes or breaks your artistry career, whether you can do that extra 5 or 10%.
Mhm.
So
Or you just build a loyal fan base of people that love your music, Blastic. I
somehow,
liked
other
it.
other than having really good music, I guess.
Yeah. Add it to my library. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man, this is great. I love hearing stuff that's, like, off the beaten path from what we normally hear and, like,
Yeah.
interesting world genres. There was one episode a while back that we had, like 7 different countries or something represented, which was crazy. But, it's
Mhm.
been a while, so it's great to hear this kinda thing. It's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah. Super cool to share. Looks like organic mood. It's actually a different command. Submit.
I just did it. Oh,
Um,
we both did it.
oh, beautiful. Hey, what's up? Do you think we're? What do you think? Another one, or do you think we're good?
Yeah, let's do one more.
All right, last one, everybody. But like I said before, for the new people here, if you submit, we will get to it. So
Yep.
please submit it. We might not get to it this today. Actually, we probably most certainly won't because we're going to end after this song. But it's called "Take Me Away" by Mr. McChiquino. It's a lo-fi beat. It's a work in progress. And you ready?
No, real quick, I just wanted to say for those who just got here, just for context, so it's not like we're not doing like a short stream. We normally do 2 hours, so we're approaching the 2 hour mark, and usually we do this on Friday. So feel free to submit with that link, and again, we like have a guarantee basically that we get to your feedback. And yeah, we still do the feedback. We normally have people that yeah, you can check the VOD. And sometimes we have people that help us with like sending out the videos via email. So you know that you got your feedback done. But yeah, the best thing would be to check the replay on Twitch and you can find yours. But we should be back again on Friday.
Yep. Um, cool.
All
So
right.
looks like I just checked that link. It doesn't work.
Wah
So Mr.
wah.
McChiquino, I don't know what happened, but it's off of SoundCloud now. So we'll go to the next person, which is Rix's Chroma.
Cool.
The works in
Rix's.
progress, which they actually sent it to us a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
yeah. That's why it's
So they
familiar.
said, "Thanks for the awesome feedback on a previous stream. I beefed up the low end of the song with a louder, distorted sub bass. I mostly
Ooh,
mix on headphones, so I don't have proper monitors to hear low frequencies accurately.
nice.
So it's definitely my weakest point for all my tracks. I tried to make it a lot less happy this time around. Haha. Hope it still has the punchiness from the first version. Cool.
That's a common issue, by the way. Most people's speakers don't have a ton of low end, and it would potentially be bad if they did because most of us are in smaller rooms, and smaller rooms usually coincide with wavelengths, like not resident, resonant frequencies that cause buildup in your room. So if you have problems with low end, it is a good idea to use headphones to do that
Yep.
part of the mixing.
I just want to address this misconception. So, yeah, I'm here to help. A couple weeks ago, damn, so I got to wait a few weeks. No, that is
No.
not true. So, this is like what we do on the stream is we listen to finished releases, but also works in progress. And so, what a lot of people do is they submit their work in progress and then they hear what we suggest to change. And then it'll take like a couple of weeks for them to change it. And then they'll submit it again. And so, like this one, it looks like it was submitted last week. So, we're trying to get actually, and we changed our review setup to try to get through songs quicker, so we don't have a queue from week to week. But yeah, this person submitted it last week, so uh, for you, it probably we could get to it next week.
Yeah, so to clarify, we reviewed it weeks ago and then they submitted it again. So
Yeah, yeah,
this is more recent, and yeah.
cool. This it is. Chroma, new edited 2/7/2022. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. It's that Medeon type. Super solid. Oh, a nice little change up. I think the sub bass might be turned up a little too much.
Yeah.
I love it when it's a snappy drum like that. That nice thump to it.
Yeah. Yeah, nice drums.
Chroma, new edited
Cool.
2/7/2022. Yeah, so yeah, I'm here to help. We're also thinking about having a mechanism that if people want to submit and then put their song at the head of the queue, that they just like tip us
Yeah,
on
you could
Fast on Twitch.
whatever amount you want to start out with. So again,
Yeah.
it's just supply and demand. Like we can't infinitely do all the songs in the world feedback, right?
Yep.
It's impossible. So we're trying to just offer the most useful feedback possible, and it takes time to go into depth. So it can actually be helpful as opposed to just surface level. So yeah, that's where we're at. But yeah,
Either
I
way,
mean,
we'd like to hear your song. So
yeah, if you say you'll have a new mix by Friday, then you could send it to us. I mean, if you're just constantly revising mixes, I can see how, whatever doesn't you don't want to wait. But if you think it's useful to you, feel free to do that. Or we should have a mechanism like if it's that important, send us a buck, right? Like
Which
that'll be the
yeah,
system. If it's really important, then you have the ability to do that for like a super low amount, right?
yeah. And you're not the first person to say that. So we've heard your feedback, and we're actively trying to act on it. So cool. But yeah. So that being said, since we have a history with this, I'll go ahead and address the changes. I do think that the sub bass is a little too much pump now. Seems like everything's kind of in like a bass heavy filter ish kind of thing. It almost sounds might be a little bit too muddy on the end.
Yeah.
Um, I do get the feel that you did change up the melody to be less happy all the time, which is good. Um, but I do think the overall content it feels still, and I don't know if you meant to do it this way, but it does feel still like background music for a streamer.
Yeah, no, I was
It's
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, which is fine. There's a market for it, and I just don't know if that's what you're going for. But so what's happening to me is like there's a lot of solid melodies, but they don't come together to tell a cohesive story throughout the whole 3 minute adventure that you give us. What is this? 3 minute 30, something like that? No, 306.
306. I
Yeah.
mean,
Sorry.
honestly, on that front, it's like I totally agree that it's definitely a little bit background musicy. Um,
It's
that
really
mel
solid melody.
the melody definitely repeats a lot, right?
Mm,
It's not a bad melody. I like it. It's like it's catchy, but depends what you're trying to go for. I would say right now because it's so repetitive, it doesn't really it doesn't sound super unique to me, and maybe it's also just the sound choices that are like pretty typical of streamer background music sort of.
yeah.
But yeah, and again, like the issue with the sub bass for vibes specifically though, I don't know if I have a whole lot other than like yeah, it's like it's a nice listen, but I do sort of wish it was a little bit more interesting, as in like more variation throughout on
Mhm.
all fronts, right? Like more maybe melodic variation or more sound variation, like have sections where like a totally different type of like synth pad comes in with some different rhythmic thing happening, or like some swells and fades, some variation in the dynamics, right? All of those things are pretty much the same throughout.
Yes.
So I would like to make those things a little bit more varied, a little bit more interesting.
Hmm, hmm.
But yeah, vibes specifically, it's cool. I would say probably like 70% between yellow and green for me.
Yep. It doesn't feel overly happy like it was last time, but it still kind of has that same vibe of streamer background music. The melody's really catchy, but it does feel like uh, the only thing that really changes is kind of like the top line synth, but then everything else sounds the same. And the top line synth doesn't sound like too different. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Or the top line melodies. So, um, yeah, that's what I would say. That being said, there is an audience for it. So if that's what you're going for, let us know. But yeah. So for me, vibes, it's like 75%. If it's stream or background music related, it's like 90%. But yeah,
Sure.
that's what I have. Content that kind of goes into content too. What do you think, Josh? Would you
Yeah, I
say?
think I think I pretty much touched on it just with like the arrangement concerns and like
Mhm.
a little bit more variation. I think the sounds are fine, maybe a little bit typical, but they don't stick out as being bad at all.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I would say again, if your purpose actually is to have this be like something that can be licensed as background music, then yeah, it fits right in. It's good. But if you want to stand out more, like get on more playlists or whatever, um, it could be beefed up a little bit, and then also a little bit of it lies in production. So
Mhm.
content, I'll just say probably 50% between yellow and green. I think the variation is pretty important for me at least.
Yeah, especially if it's not geared to be a content creator song. Um, yeah, I mean, just wild suggestion. Like that melody in the beginning and the whole kind of Medeon feel, I think is so solid.
Yeah.
It starts off so well. Um, like one thing, just spitballing, just have a section where like the drums completely drop out, and then like you can get more of like an intimate kind of I don't know if I'm gonna be happy forever type melody, and it's like, I don't know, maybe if I keep trying, doing my best melody, blah blah blah, and then it builds back up into like a cool like drop drum beat
Yeah,
with the main
yeah,
melody. Like, give it some structure like that, man. Put us on a journey,
yeah.
um, and try to be like dramatic with it. But at the same time, also, if it's for content creation like that, like it's kind of fine the way it is. But we're kind of addressing it as like a full song in its entirety. So I would say the starting material that you have is really good in terms of content. It's just the overall structure of it. So I would say like 60 to 65% between green and yellow. Um, Production. What do you have, Josh?
The this is maybe subjective and kind of weird, but I feel like I was listening to two separate mixes happening at the same time somehow.
Hmm.
They just like there's the sub bass portion of it. It's like it sounds like it's like a club like 15 feet away, and
Mhm.
then there's the melody stuff in the mid range content that's a little bit more present, but also not super close. It's weird. Like there's like a depth of field like illusion that's happening where it feels like one like part of your mix is closer and the other part is farther, and like frequency wise they feel separated sort of. And I
Mhm.
think it might just be that your like sub bass stuff or whatever you did there is processed a little bit too separately from the rest, right? So I don't
Mm.
know if any of that is going through any shared master bus, like effect or anything like that, um, or what you did exactly there. But I think we both agreed that there's probably a little bit too much sub bass, which contributes to the depth of field thing when there's a ton of bass, but then like the mid range stuff and the high end stuff is a little bit quieter. It sort of confuses your brain because normally like you hear high end frequency from further away and like low end closer. There's just all sorts of psychoacoustic stuff there. But yeah, I don't. It's hard to give an exact solution for that problem other than like make sure you've got some commonalities between what you're doing with the sub bass processing and the rest of the mix, that they're not completely separate signal paths. Uh, that like making sure that you're even on how much of the mid-range elements you have and like the lead, because that sounded quieter to me relative to like the bass element. And just again, like all I can offer is like tying it together more with a little bit of light compression on top or like something. It's a little bit hard for me to pinpoint honestly, but
Mhm.
I think it has to do with the sub processing and with the EQing and volumes of those important mid-range elements. They sound a little bit too quiet.
Mhm. Yeah, I could see that. Um, I think it's one of the cases of like when you build up a song from the bottom up and you're kind of mixing along as you go, and you come up with your first mix, and someone listens to it and they say like, "Oh, the sub bass could be a little higher or something." I think you overdrive that advice. So, shouts out to being receptive to advice
Yeah,
and stuff.
right.
But also, like, it's probably subtle more than anything, like,
Yeah.
don't need to go too crazy on it. Like, the first mix did sound pretty decent, but, um, as, like, a house song, it did lack the body. And I think now it's just a little overdrive or not overdrive, but, like, just the sub bass is a little bit too up, so.
Yeah, and that's to be expected when you like take a piece of advice, except especially if it's something you maybe don't have a ton of experience like working in that mode or something. You
Mhm,
go in and you kind of work on it, and then you're like, my goal is to get enough sub bass. I need to get enough sub bass. And then finally you're like, yeah, this is a bunch of sub bass, right? And then you're like, it's good. But it's not like you're trying to get above a certain threshold. It's like you're trying to reach the right balance. So now you've got above that. Now just bring it back a little bit towards like what you had previously or what sounds more balanced, and you'll be there.
yep, yep. Cool. Um, all that to say, production score, pretty much it's like decent. Uh, like the overall track production is pretty decent, pretty good actually. And then that sub bass processing kind of threw everything off. So it's like a 60-65% green and yellow, I would say. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I was gonna say lower just because I think that the weird like depth of field thing just throws me off a lot. And I'm like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Mhm,
It might be a simple fix even, but I would say I'd say like 50% between yellow and green because again, it's sort of like feels like it's sort of falling apart in a weird way that could
mhm,
probably be fairly easily fixed, but it's definitely important.
mhm. Yeah, I might even say go back to the. I mean, this might hard to do, but go back to the way it was processed before and just subtly change what's happening with the sub bass. Just subtle because the initial mix was, I would say, closer to what you would want versus this one. Um,
Potentially, yeah. I still can't get over it. Sounds so strange how like elements are sort of separated in a weird way that's not common.
mhm,
I just I would love to know if you actually what kind of processing you have in commonality with everything like on the master bus
mhm,
because it maybe it's just honestly made better by like well obviously dialing back the sub bass a little bit first but just putting everything into like some sort of light saturation or compression like I'm saying just to you need to glue things together right there's a lot of mixing resources out there that talk about this kind of thing so maybe that fixes it but it definitely is like on the way and it sounds really good we're just hinting at like these subtle like last mile tasks to get it to sound cohesive and radio ready and in line with other popular music out there and also to know your target audience and your goals whether that's to be like streaming background music or to be something that people listen to on playlists
Mateon.
and yeah, and potentially implementing more variation, you know, with melodics, dynamics, volume, sound choices, arrangement, like having more fun with it, right? Um, yeah, making it jump around, dance around a little bit more. So
Mhm.
overall, really, really good start, good work. Love hearing it again, second time around. Hope to hear what it sounds like when it's totally there, and appreciate you coming on the stream and sending us your music.
Yeah, dude. And this is like one of the use cases that we really like to see is like when someone listens or sends us their music and then we give critique and then someone gives it back. Um, it's like an iterative process. Like we love to kind of serve as these third ears for you.
Hmm.
So yeah, thank you very much. Overall, I would say it's on its way. It's like 60 to 65% green to yellow, let's say overall.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Cool. With that, that's the last we have. So we have on the queue for next week, Who is Golden, or I guess this Friday, Diffused Records, ISO, JSON, and Yeah, I'm Here to Help. So glad that they actually ended up submitting.
Yeah, nice.
We'll see if we have that pay to skip queue feature,
Yeah,
but stay tuned.
dope. All right. Thank you everyone for joining. Thanks for sending in your music. Love hearing it. Love hearing the progress and the creativity, and the love that goes into all of it. So
Mhm.
yeah, we'll be back soon to see you again and listen to more music.
Yeet,
Thank you for your support.
yeet, yeet. Peace, peace.
All right. Peace.
is wrong.